Hi, everybody. Welcome to Intuitive Tuesday. Thank you for joining us again to find out what your message from Spirit is this week. So, for today's Billet reading, I specifically set my intention that the message should come through in the forms of imagery and symbolism. Thus, for each specific number, there will be certain images that came through. And of course, I will give my interpretation of that imagery, but you're also welcome to take that imagery and apply it to your own life and interpret it in what way you see fit. So, if you're ready, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and see which number from 1 to 6 you are most drawn to. When you're ready, continue listening or just skip to the number that you chose. Number 1. Number 1, the image that came to me was that of an athlete taking part in a race. And as this figure is running towards the finish line, which is really close, he keeps hearing his name being called by his fellow athletes or his opponents. And as he looks over his shoulder, he sees that all the other athletes are identical to him. So they all look exactly the same. And he keeps looking over his shoulder at them. And as he does, he's losing speed. And he's starting to get tired. And he's slowing down. And as he slows down, all these other athletes run up to him and jump on his back, and he's unable to move forward, even though the finish line is so close by. So the way or the sense that I'm getting from this imagery is that you might have been working really hard towards a certain goal, and maybe you're at a point where you're starting to doubt yourself, or things are moving much slower. This can be because you are basically your own worst enemy. You are the one holding yourself back. So there might be certain doubts or certain negative belief systems that are preventing you from moving forward. And you might even be considering giving up on this goal or this project that you're working on. Don't do this. You are so close to reaching your goal. So what I would suggest is to look at what it is that is holding you back. And instead of blaming the circumstances or other people, have a look inside yourself about what negative belief systems you might have, what doubts you might have. Like maybe it's a lack of self-confidence, whatever it may be. Really take the time to look inward, because I do get the sense that you are the one who's holding yourself back from reaching this goal. Blessings be upon you, number 1. Number 2. The image that is coming through is of this figure that's outside in a garden, dancing in the rain. And there's this storm, this incredible storm of strong wind and everything that's taking place. And instead of looking for shelter, this figure is dancing in the rain, embracing this. And even though initially she started dancing with a smile, it quickly turned upside down into a frown, so to speak. And the message that's coming through here is that initially, when you might have faced dark times, you might have embraced it, because we know that it is during these times that we do experience a lot of growth and learn a lot of new lessons. But sometimes when we are in these situations, the lesson is to actually get the courage to get ourselves out of the situation or to stand up for ourselves. So as this figure is dancing in the rain, getting soaked, starting to get cold, she isn't even noticing that there's an umbrella leaning against a tree close by. So all she has to do is to pick up the umbrella to shelter her from the rain, or to simply go inside the house. So really take a look at your life and the situation that you might be in, what you might be struggling with. I also get the sense that maybe you feel that you deserve it, that it's some sort of punishment, or you might even think that you don't deserve better. While in this thought patterns, that is your lesson, that you need to change it. Yes, we need to face our troubles in dark situations, but as I mentioned, sometimes the lesson hidden in that is for us to have the courage and the self-confidence to stand up and remove ourselves from that situation. And you do have the ability to do that. Blessings be upon you, number 2. Number 3. Number 3, the image that is coming through is of a person in an office setting. So I do get a sense that it might have something to do with your work situation. But what is interesting about this imagery is that in front of this person on the desk, there's a computer, there's a landline phone, there's a cell phone, there's a tablet, there's an old school fax machine. And as this person is working on the computer, the screen starts to go black. And this figure is then trying to pick up the landline phone. It's not working. The cell phone isn't working. The fax machine isn't working. And I get the sense that it has something to do with communication as well. That maybe you are struggling at work at the moment, or you are struggling with a certain project that you are busy with. But I do get the sense that this problem can be overcome or solved by effective communication. So that might be something that you need to pay attention to if you're in a situation where you are having a tough time at work. Blessings be upon you, number 3. Number 4. Number 4, the first imagery that comes to mind is of a tornado quickly moving through a neighborhood, destroying everything. And I see this family in a house, and this figure grabbing the children by the hand and running towards an underground shelter. And as they enter this underground shelter, it becomes apparent that it's stocked full of food and water, and there's a bed and a blanket and warmth. And the hatch to the underground bunker closes very firmly. So this family that is hiding in this bunker is absolutely safe from what is going on outside, and they are not in harm in any way. Now, I do get the sense that this might have something to do with your finances or money, security and stability, and specifically that you might need to think about putting in place a plan B. Now, this is not a warning that something horrible is going to happen, so please don't interpret it that way. It is just a feeling of peace and security. If you do have certain things in place, know that if something does not work out the way you thought it would or planned it would financially, then there is a backup plan, there is a plan B to fall back on. So that might be something that you also need to look at and pay attention to. Blessings be upon you, number 4. Number 5. Number 5, the image that is coming through is of a figure sitting in a forest. And this figure is surrounded by all these old trees, and it becomes apparent that these trees are hundreds and hundreds of years old. And as I'm looking at these trees, I'm starting to see that they are being destroyed. So someone is cutting down all of these trees, and the figure that is sitting there watching this happen is getting very anxious and angry as well, and are experiencing a feeling of helplessness. So what is interesting about this image is I do get the sense that these old trees represents traditions or culture or old ways of doing things, almost like sort of comfort zones. It might be things that you've grown up with that makes you feel safe, that makes you feel secure. So you might find yourself in a situation where there's a lot of changes happening in your life, and some of these traditions or culture or certain things that you've grown accustomed to and used to, and these things that makes you feel safe, they might be changing, or they might be falling away, and it might be filling you with a lot of anxiety or even anger. But I do have a sense of good news for you, because as I'm watching at these trees, and these trees that have been cut off, their roots weren't destroyed. So even though these trees were cut off, I'm seeing them gradually regrowing. So they are growing again from those roots up into these big lovely trees again. So I think the message coming through here is that it doesn't matter what changes takes place in your life or where you find yourself. Those things that you've experienced, the things you hold dear, that's still inside of you. It's like those roots that's holding on. And you can always restart that or bring that back. It doesn't matter where you physically find yourself or what circumstances. You can still hold on to those things that do bring you comfort. Blessings be upon you, number 5. Number 6. Number 6, the image that's coming through is a room. It's this figure in this room where it's very dark and dusty, and there's a lot of spiders and spider webs. And the figure in this room is running towards the windows, making sure that the curtains are drawn closed. It's like this person doesn't want anyone to look in through the windows to see what is going on inside of this room. But as this figure is trying to keep all these curtains closed, someone threw a brick through one of the windows. And as the window broke, the wind from outside is rushing in, causing the curtain to flap in the wind and drawing open. And this figure is rushing towards this window, trying to fix it, trying to keep the curtain closed. But as the figure is busy doing this, other windows are being broken as well, until eventually all the windows are broken and the curtains are drawn open. And the figure inside of his room is also very anxious and scared and feels extremely vulnerable. But the good news is, as this wind is blowing in from outside through these broken windows, all the negativity and all the negative energy and angst that was inside of this room is blown out of the windows again. So it's almost like this cleansing force that's coming in and sweeping through the room, taking away all those spider webs, all the dust, all that negative, stagnant energy. And gradually, this figure is starting to let go of the angst as well. And the smile is growing on the face of this figure, or this person. So I think the message coming through here is that you might be a very private person. You might be someone who holds on to your problems, to your secrets, and you don't want others to see the things that are bothering you. And so you're drawing these curtains closed so that no one can see inside. You want to be in charge of what you share with people, or what parts of you they see. But you might find yourself in a situation where these curtains are starting to draw open, and you might feel very threatened. It might be someone in your life who's asking a lot of questions or is trying to get to know you. And it might fill you with a lot of angst because you don't feel like sharing your problems or these secrets that you've been keeping. But the message coming through for you today then is to let it happen. Let those windows break. Let those curtains draw open. Let this wind come in. And even though it is not a pleasant experience, ultimately, when you look at the bigger picture, it will be very, very healing. Because all those things you've been holding on to, carrying around, worrying about, stressing about, let it go. You don't need to hold on to that. And it's not going to be the end of the world if someone is able to get a glance of the things that are bothering you or what is really going on. So just let go. Blessings be upon you, number 6. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Goodbye.